Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. With us now on the phone is the Senate's most senior Republican, Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah. Senator Hatch is the ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee and also a member of the Judiciary Committee. And Senator Hatch, welcome back.
Well, nice to be with you. Always nice to be with you.
Well, today marks the first day of the first government shutdown in 17 years after Democrats rejected the House bill to fund the government and delay Obamacare by a year. What is your take on the outcome of the budget impasse and Senate Democrats' decision to not conference with Republicans?
Well, you can't even get them to sit down with you. You can't get them to talk to us. You know, during the Reagan years, and you can't get the president to engage either. Reagan did. George Herbert Walker Bush did. Clinton would consult with us and give us his opinion. We can't get this president to do it. And Harry Reid, he doesn't even consider what the House does. He just moves the table, and they tabled a number of House attempts to try and solve problems yesterday.
So where, if at all, is there any room for consensus between Republicans and Democrats, and what will be Republicans' next step?
Well, we think there's lots of room for consensus. But you got to get them to talk to you, and when they just table every bill that comes over, once they move the table, there's no debate, there's no consideration, there's no talk between the two parties, and they send it over. Harry Reid stands up and just moves the table, and that's it. And we haven't had the president engage. He's the only president in my 37 years in the Congress who just hasn't engaged and who doesn't, who wants his way above all things. And there's a lot that the Republicans need to do here to get spending under control and do the things that we should. This is a dark moment in our nation's history, and I think our citizens have every right to be disappointed in their government.
Democrats are working hard to portray the GOP as the cause of the partial shutdown. You say the Democrats don't want to talk, the president's not engaged. Who is to blame here?
Well, if you can't talk to people and they won't even consider talking to you, I don't see how you can't help but blame the Democrats for not opening the door and talking to us. There are a lot of us who would try and come up with a way of resolving this problem. And Republicans have listened to the American people who've been clear that they don't think Obamacare is ready for prime time. The House passed 2 pieces of legislation to fund the government while delaying the tax penalty for individuals, repealing the law's requirement that everyone purchase health insurance, and repeal the $31 million medical device tax. Last night, they even sent the bill over to do away with, to make sure that members of Congress don't get any advantage in health care, and the Democrats rejected that as well. The Obama administration has delayed parts of the health law 6 times, and Congress has voted to change it 7 more times because the law is a disaster. Now Obamacare is going to live, and state after state is saying they don't have confidence that people's privacy will be protected or that folks won't be defrauded. Everybody has to register now to the exchanges, and this administration has not had any independent verification of whether the personal information and the private information that people have to give to these exchanges will be protected. It's an open door to scam artists and people who can take advantage of them.
Senator, how long could this shutdown go on for? And what's the impact to our economy if it goes on for quite a while?
Well, I don't know how long it's going to go on. I hope it's just a few days. But the Republicans have said, let's grant a week so we can sit down, negotiate, and get this done. The Democrats have rejected it. Let's grant some other time. They've rejected it. It's really the heart of Obamacare goes live today. And it's a disaster. Everybody knows it, including the Democrats, but they're going to force it on the American people. And remember, just a month ago, Harry Reid, popping off, he said, well, this is just a step on the way to a single-payer system, which means they want to go to socialized medicine, where the federal government has a one-size-fits-all federal government control of health care. If we do that, we'll never get spending under control.
Senator, the federal government is expected to hit its self-imposed borrowing limit of $16.7 trillion in just a couple weeks. House Republicans want any debt ceiling increase offset by spending cuts elsewhere, but President Obama says he won't negotiate on the debt ceiling either. If the president still refuses, should the nation default on its financial obligations?
Well, it could. I don't want the nation to default. You know, it's one thing to have a shutdown for a few days, and I suspect that it's going to go on for a little while, maybe 3 or 4 days. Who knows, maybe more than that. But when you start talking about the debt ceiling, that means that you're going to default on the obligations. And frankly, why wouldn't they be willing to sit down and discuss this with the Republicans and with the Democrats, too? There's some Democrats who are unnerved by all this, too, but they are rigidly forced to to vote with the Democrat leadership, which is not willing to negotiate, not willing to sit down, not willing to do anything. And frankly, it's very frustrating.
Senator, last question for you. You said earlier in the interview that Americans are right to be upset. What words or message do you have for Americans right now who, according to polls, are tired of the hyper-partisanship, the brinksmanship, and the political maneuvering in Washington?
Well, I'll remind them that presidents should work with Congress to stop fiscal impasses like this. Ronald Reagan, George Herbert Walker Bush, and Bill Clinton all negotiated over raising the debt ceiling and ultimately included budget reforms. And President Clinton and then Speaker Gingrich negotiated over the last government shutdown back in 1996. This president is unwilling to do it. The Democrats are unwilling to do it. They said take their position or leave it. And I think they've basically wanted this shutdown so they can blame Republicans for it. I think this is a time for real leadership from the president and the Senate Democrats. And once again, they're missing in action. I think the American people deserve better, and I hope that they realize that it isn't Republicans that are causing this problem. We can't get them to even talk to us about the overspending that they're doing and the crunching by the federal government that's going on in people's lives all over this country. Right. I think we're going to I hope we can get some reasonable minds together to do something here, but it won't happen if they just blame Republicans on this.
All right, Senator Orrin Hatch, Republican from Utah. Always good to speak with you. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, nice to be with you, and thanks.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.